Now, do you want to catch loads of stunning carp like this one this autumn? Now, this tactic that we're going to show you today is something that will just keep that rod tip going round as the weather cools down. So stick around to find out how we're catching loads of lovely carp just like this one on a really simple tactic. Whoa. That was a bite. Oh dear. Now, I'll just get this fish in and then we'll have a little chat about what we're talking about today, because that went when I least expected it. Little carp. And we're looking at something that is quite in vogue at the minute, and it's kind of crossover from specimen carp fishing, and that's PVA bag fishing. Now I'm not an expert by any means, it's a nice carp, but I can't ignore how many fish are being caught at the minute on PVA bag, and I thought it'd be the perfect topic for the next video. Now, I'll just get this cast out. We might as well fish while we talk. And at venues like Barston, Boddington, places like that where you're fishing for bigger fish, this has really come to the fore. And I just wanted to have a play with it and also show you how simple it can be, because I've had 4 casts today and I've had 3 fish, which shows you how effective this could be, or can be. Now, we've got some PVA bags. This is what we're talking about. So we're fishing a little bomb setup with a small mesh bag, PVA mesh bag, full of 6mm pellets. Really simple stuff. You could put 8s in there, you could put 4s in there, you could probably put micros, you could put ground bait. You can really experiment with that. But because of the venue where I'm fishing today, I feel like hard pellets is the way to go. I'm trying to catch carp, I'm trying to catch bigger skimmers, bigger bream, everyone's back. And so I've gone for just filling it up with 6mm pellets. I'll show you about that in a minute. But one thing that goes hand in hand with PVA bag fishing is additives and flavours. Now, jury's out for me whether they make much of a difference, but I have to admit, whenever I've done this sort of fishing, just chucking that out on its own, just a PVA bag with pellets in, it's a bit bland and boring, and I think that there's more to be done. Now, some anglers have got some secret potions and concoctions and stuff, but I'm just dipping it in this bait booster, which is quite a sweet one, and I'm just giving it a dunk, and I'm literally just chucking it out like that. Now, it's something that Steve Ringer mentioned to me a while ago, and I've since had a little play with it. I know there's videos on YouTube, Andy Kinder doing the same thing at Barston, and there's some really good anglers who are doing this at the moment, way better than me, but I thought, let's have a look, because it's the perfect, now it's cooling down, it's the perfect sort of attack for autumn time. You know, the water's cooling down, we need to be a bit more cautious with our bait, and chucking out one of them attached to a lead, providing you're in the right place, you're gonna get a bite. It's just the perfect trap. The small fish aren't really gonna eat the hard pellets. It's a perfect little trap. Got that hairy bait on, it's just brilliant. So let's have a look at how we tie the PVA bags, what we're doing, how we're using it, what hook baits we've got, where we're casting, and hopefully we'll catch a few fish while we're at it. But yeah, that was a nice little cut just to interrupt the intro. But yeah, it's a method that I've definitely got to employ a bit more, and I'm sure it's one that you guys can bring into your own fishing too, if you haven't already, of course. Okay, so let's look at the actual PVA bag setup and the rig that we're using and the actual PVA itself, because It's borrowed from specimen fishing, carp fishing, and I use it all the time when I'm chub fishing. Put a little bag of boilies on, chuck it out, catch loads of fish. It's something that I used in match fishing, God, many years ago, just for winter fishing really, like nicking fish in winter. And then I sort of drifted away to use other methods. Now I remember like Chris van der Vliet was one of the early ones who really twigged it, Dickie Carr, people like that. They were using like PVA bags, dipping it in like a flavour, chucking it out at venues like Barston and doing really well. And I kind of just forgot about it, and then just recently it's sort of come back to the fore again where people are using it and seeing great results. And someone asked the other day about, can you find some methods for like the autumn, like the changeover between summer and autumn, and I thought the PVA one is the perfect one, because you can chuck it out when it's cold and leave it out until you get a bite, because you're just trying to set a little pile of bait. It's not a feeder where you're trying to build a swim or anything like that, you're just chucking it out and leaving it. So it's a perfect autumn method that I think that you guys probably should talk about. Now let's have a look at the mesh. Now there's loads on the market. I've just got a Fox one, purely because it's the cheapest one in that shop. It's 10 quid. I use it for my chub fishing, like I said, and I just grabbed it out of my bag and that's what we're using. I think Guru do one that's like a speed melt one. This says it's fast melt. I'm not sure if there's any difference, there probably is, but at this time of year when it's quite warm and the water's still quite warm, I think that any sort of mesh PVA is fine. Now this is a 25mm, which I think is about right for your 6mm pellets, because you want to make a little bag that's like round like that, really, rather than, like a round PVA bag, rather than like a long one or a really thin one. You want it to be able to make it round, so I think that 25mm is about right. Making the bags is really simple. Firstly, I use, and it's a little tip that I picked up from my old mate Rob Button, just use little pole pots to measure out how many pellets I'm putting in. Now, a little cap pot like that, or a larger toss pot, something like that, is perfect, because it just measures out a proper little mouthful of pellets for a carp, and it's about right. One of them is about right. So grab yourself some of that. In terms of what we're putting in the bag, all I'm putting in today is just 6mm hard pellets. There's a few red ones in there. It is actually the Sonia Baits hard pellets. I wouldn't hesitate to put 4s in, maybe even micros, but because I'm fishing for carp and I want to like solely target carp really, I'm fishing them, I wouldn't even hesitate to put a little pinch of 8mm in rather than the 6s. Hook bait wise, I've just gone for some oily 8mm, ones that I've got soaked in salmon oil. They match up the feed quite nicely and are a little bit more attractive. But I have got a variety of bright ones, so different wafters and whatnot. They'll be nice, maybe as like a target bait. And I've also got the old faithful pepperami, because I'd like to put a bit of that on. It's a great hook bait. So let's look at actually tying the bag. Now, first thing you need is a towel, because obviously this melts in water, so you need to be able to dry your hands. It's common sense, but point a quick need to make, because I often go fishing without a towel. Like I say, we're using a little measure. You need some scissors to cut the PVA, nice sharp ones, and then all we're going to do, now I don't need to worry about the plunger, that's for making little ground bait sticks and all that. I don't really need to worry about that. So firstly, let's measure off a little capful of 6mm, and we're just going to pop them in there and then let the pellets fall out, and you see they fell out there. Then what we need to do is bunch them together so that then you get this like nice round bag. I think that the tight bag obviously helps the bag sort of open up quickly, but it also makes it nice and aerodynamic, nice and tight, nice small parcel of bait. And it also, if I do want to dip it in one of these like concoctions, I can do. So as I'm doing that, I'm pulling it down tight with my fingers like that. So I'm compacting it, just pushing the pellets in, and then I pinch it with my fingers and then twist it a few times. This kind of like locks it, makes it makes it easy to tie off, and then trap it with that finger and bring some PVA off and make a loop. Pass the PVA through, and you'll notice I've not taken any tension off with this finger. I'm just going to pass it down and pull it through, and you get a lovely little tight PVA bag like that. Now the next trick is to tie another knot, so pass it back through and tie another knot, so you've got a second knot. Now the reason for that is I can then make the next PVA bag. So if you know where you're going, perfect little PVA bag. If you know where you're going and you know what pellets you're using, you can do this night before or, you know, beforehand. But if you're going to a fishery where you've got to buy the pellets in the morning, obviously you can't do that. But it doesn't take 2 minutes to make a few PVA bags, so I'll just show you once more. So little measure of pellets, let them fall out the bottom, pull the PVA off, you see that? Nice round sort of ball, pinch it with my fingers, twist, pull yourself off some loose, make a nice loop, try and keep that tension like that, and then PVA with a second knot like that, finish it off, and that's it. So we've got, as quick as that, a perfect parcel, a perfect mouthful for a carp. Now I'm going to pop that back in there. Always keep your tube handy, because the last thing you want to do is lose all your PVA. Obviously this is a nightmare method when it's raining. Now rig wise, what I've gone with is quite a, almost like a specimen style rig. Now the rod's irrelevant, you just need something that can get you out to the distance. I've gone for a 10 foot in this case, my usual 8-pound detection, nice and strong. I've got my inline lead that I always use. Now it's up to you whether you use inline leads or whether you use like a swivel lead. It's totally personal preference. I just like having the, like, it's quite a dense thing. I think it hooks the fish very well, this sort of setup. And I've got, it's 30 grams. Now I'm only chucking 20 odd metres here today. If I was chucking further, I wouldn't hesitate to use 45 grams or even like 60 grams, like a proper lead. The reason is, when you're chucking out a PVA bag, you need the lead to cast the bag, not the bag cast the lead. If you use like a 10 gram lead in a PVA bag and try and chuck it, it'll cartwheel through the air, end up in a tangle, or even your bag rip. You need the lead to chuck the bag, if that makes sense. So you need the lead to be at least 30 grams, 45 grams, maybe, like I say, maybe even 2 ounces, so that it actually it bosses the bag as you're chucking it out. So got that. Got a little quick change bead, which is important because we've got a couple of hook lengths on the go, and while the rod's out fishing, I can bait up, I can dunk it in my little dips or whatever, and I'm fishing. Now I've got 0.25 fluorocarbon, that's Acolyte fluorocarbon, and I've just got 8 inches. The reason is, I'm like, when I'm fishing bomb and pellet, like feeding, I like to use a long hook length because I'm convinced that the fish follow it down. But when I'm fishing like this, I think you're setting a trap and you need the fish to be able to like just pick it up and hook themselves. So I've gone for an 8-inch hook length. If I was fishing over gravel or a firmer lake bed, I'd probably shorten that even more. But because it is an old, like, estate lake, this one, there is going to be a bit of silt, so I do need a little bit of length. But yeah, that short hook length just means that as soon as a fish picks that hook bait up, it's coming into contact with that hook and feeling the lead. Down at the business end, I've just got a size 12 Guru pellet waggler hook, and then a little bait band where I can put on one of my hook bait options, either 8mm pellet, piece of meat, wafter, you name it. So that's it. So all I'm doing, every time I reel in, I just take that hook length off, like so, put it somewhere safe so I can reload it, and then out of my little jar of liquid like that, you see that? I just hook the bag on, the little hook length on, and that is ready to go. So the perfect little PVA bag setup, perfect little trap, very simple, very effective. Whether you need to put that liquid on there, who knows? It's you know, it's one of those things, but there's no doubt in the fact that adding liquids when you're fishing with PVA works. So let's get this out into the swim, and hopefully we can get towed round by another beautiful carp. Just really quick, while I'm thinking about it, I'm just looking at my swim. So looking at sort of, it's just cooling down a bit. It doesn't look like it today, but it is. And just thought I'd just talk about like locations for carp at this time of year, because obviously we've got this lovely island, but it's very, very shallow over there by that island. Now, I wouldn't ever rule it out, obviously chucking tight, because that's a great place to fish. But in the winter and autumn, obviously they're not going to be stacked up against the island in 18 inches of water. However, if you look, there's some lily pads just off that point, and then they suddenly stop, which I can only assume is a drop-off of some description, and that is where I'm catching them, just about a metre to the right of them lily pads. It feels firm, it's not silty or anything, and I think that's a great place to target. Alternatively, we've got this lovely like corner as well, where there's trees and shade and all sorts going on over there. I also think that could be really good, and I wouldn't even rule out the proper open water. All I'm saying is there's areas to look for at this time of year. Slightly deeper water can be really, really good, so just think about it. And if you don't get bites, say here, where I've started, maybe just have a cast out here, or a cast up against these trees, or up against that boat, or wherever, obviously the confines you swim, but just think about location, because there'll be somewhere, in a swim like this where you've got loads of options, there'll be somewhere where a few fish are held up. Let's get this little beauty out there. Just bring it out there. Stop it. I'm not clipped up, I'm just chucking it about a bit today, trying to locate the fish. It's so attractive, it's so effective, I can just cast it to different areas and search the swim. And I think that's something that we probably should chat about. I'm talking about like the autumn time here, where we're looking to pick fish off, not necessarily build a swim. So I will look around, I will move where I'm chucking. I'm not trying to build anything. I'm pinging a few pellets in, but I can easily chuck to new areas if I need to. So let's get a couple more PVA bags sorted. So I've got one hook length, just chucked in, set my timer on my phone, and we're fishing. Just going with 8mm pellet, because obviously we've got pellets in the bag. Just seems like a logical thing to me. Now when you're hooking them, you can just nick them on, twist them and then hook them again. That's quite a secure way of doing it. So hook the bag on. Don't go through the knots, because the knots are the last thing to melt. So if you do get a quick bite, obviously you want your hook free. Just get that in there. I'm just using like a bait booster, which is quite a sweet liquid, but you can use anything. Probably best not to use oils, because obviously oils affect how fast the PVA breaks down. But we'll just leave that there to soak and chuck it in when time comes. I've got, like I say, two on the go. Well, 3 actually. I think that's really important, because I can obviously get my bag either soaking or just ready to go. Make sure I keep my hands dry, and just like that, perfect. Just such a good little method. It's certainly working here today. This is a lovely place to fish, because it's like you can sit and wait for your fish. It's nice fishing. I like fishing when it's like this, a bit more calm and considered. And just got to wait now. Bring a few pellets, and that's it. The most important thing, cup of tea. Waiting for the next carp. Now, one thing that you probably notice is that I've got my tip under a bit of tension now. My whole thinking is I don't want the fish to get away with it, so I'm trying to increase the bolt effect. Because I'm sitting there, I'm waiting for a long time. I want, as soon as a fish comes in and picks that 8mm up, I want it to be dunk and on. So I'm using a bit of tension in my tip as well. Normally, obviously, when I'm method feeder fishing, I like to leave it slack, but I don't really want to with this. I want to make sure, because I may only get half a dozen chances in a day, maybe not even that. I want to make sure I hook them, so it's one of the rare occasions where I like to have my rod. Still a light tip, it's only an ounce tip, but I like to have it with a decent bend in it, so that when the fish does hook it, you know, pick up that pellet, feels the lead, and then feels the rod as well, so it's just getting that hook. And most of them, the 3 carp I've caught, so 4 carp I've caught already, have been properly in the bottom lip, so that's exactly what you want. So yeah, let's have this cup of tea, and hopefully we'll catch one more and be on our way. Oh, there we go. And that is exactly what we were looking for. Just got a tiny little bang on the tip and then round it went, which means that the fish has hooked itself out. Lovely short hook length, sharp hook, big hook as well, big sharp hook, has worked its magic. And this is just a lovely way to fish. It's patient, you can sit and have a cup of tea, you get that little, really effective bite, just brilliant. Strong tackle on, so when you do get your chance, you're going to get them out most of the time. What a lovely way to fish though. And I can see why people are really enjoying it. There's situations where this just outperforms the method, and it can be fishing over silt, it can just be fishing where you're targeting big fish in amongst a lot of smaller fish, and you want to actually give them those hard pellets what the fish are so used to eating now, as opposed to micros and stuff. So there you go, something to consider if you want to get a few nice carp this autumn. Get yourself some PVA and you could catch a load of beautiful carp like this as well. I'm really enjoying this, so I'm actually going to have another chuck, but yeah, that's a perfect one to end this little video on. So thanks for watching everyone, and we'll see you again on the next one. Just a bonus tip, just netted a fish, have a towel, because obviously PVA melts with water, and the last thing we want is to make the effort and then your PVA blooming melt just because you're handling it with wet hands.